contrary to popular belief, a podcast guest appearance is not a conversation with your best friend in your living room. You can't just expect to go on a show and say whatever you want for as long as you want and have that generate any success for you, any leads, any clients, any sales. Facts tell, but stories sell.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou. And boy, do we have an exciting episode lined up for you today. Today's episode is another thought leader nugget. I'm going to talk to you today about how to create the optimal podcast guest appearance structure. You know, one of my heroes, entrepreneurial heroes, is the late, great Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, Pixar, Next. And in my humble opinion, the man who's ranked the number 3 entrepreneur of all time after the late, great Kirk Kerkorian and the very much alive Elon Musk. And why do I start with that quote? Because I want you to understand that this episode is for you if you're one of those crazy people who's dreaming and aiming to change the world, or at least your little part of the world. And podcast guesting is something you're very seriously looking at, because the most important aspect of your success is finding tools that work today to help you win. And podcast guesting is one such tool. And the most important aspect of a successful podcast guesting appearance is that it's got to be a well-structured one. You can't just expect to go on a show and say whatever you want for as long as you want and have that generate any success for you, any leads, any clients, any sales. Why? Well, because contrary to popular belief, a podcast guest appearance is not a conversation with your best friend in your living room. You can't just go on and on and on and expect the host or the audience to keep listening to you. If you take just a few minutes to properly prepare and lay out a structure to your guest appearance, it's going to go a long way toward helping you maximize the investment of time that you're making in this appearance and generate lots of leads, sales, and clients from it. Now, I got to tell you, some hosts are awesome and they're going to do a great job of leading you the right way, but unfortunately, most won't. So it's your job, your responsibility to make sure that you make all the points you know you need to make on that show and to control the narrative so that you capture the interest of the host and your ideal client. And if you just come on a show and you don't have a plan for how to make sure that you do this, you're most likely going to have wasted your time. And you're going to have missed a huge opportunity to generate real sales leads with a higher than average possibility of conversion. So I'll tell you, for example, I was on a really well-known podcast and the host wanted to start in what normally would be the middle of the narrative that I wanted to share. So what he said to me was, so Nikki, what is it that's made you so successful at turning podcast guest appearances into leads and sales? And that's a good question, but that's not where I want to start. So here's what I said to him. I said, Jim, and Jim's not his real name, by the way. That's a great question. But before I answer it, let me set the stage by telling you my backstory. I always start with my backstory. And so then I proceeded to tell him my backstory. Now, why did I do that? Because neither the host nor the audience really know anything about me at that stage. They just know that I'm a guest on their show. And they're going to be a bit guarded and skeptical about anything I have to say, at least at this point. My backstory is designed to help them relate to me as a human being and someone they can empathize with and, far more importantly, trust. It also happens to be true and authentic, and I strongly recommend that your story be true and authentic. Like, don't lie, don't BS. But most importantly, it needs to be concise and to the point. But without your backstory, you're going to lose their interest and fast. The late, great Jim Rohn once said, facts tell, but stories sell. So you got to begin every appearance with your story. And you need to have it written out in practice at least a half a dozen times before you go on your first podcast. Why? So it comes across as authentic, real, inspiring, concise. If you talk too long, this dilutes the impact of what you have to say and it causes people to tune you out. You don't want that. Attention is currency, guys. So trust me, you don't want to have people tuning you out when you're a guest on a podcast. So the next thing you need to do is you got to map out 3 to 5 major pain points with stories to match. Stories and pain points that your ideal client can and will relate to. You want them to be listening and saying to themselves, oh, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Why? Because that's what's going to interest them in getting to know you, your work, and how you can help them solve their thorny and unpleasant problems. After all, that's why you're here on the podcast, to capture their attention and their interest. And in particular, the attention and interest of your ideal client, and to get them on your calendar on a sales breakthrough call. So these pain points, they need to be really well thought out. They need to have a strong story illustrating them, each one with its own story. And they also need to show how you help solve the problem associated with the pain point, or even better, how you actually did solve it as part of the story. No. Finally, last but not least, you need a strong call to action. Asking people to book a call with you. Make sure you always take the step. Never skip it. Never, ever skip it. That's why you're here on a show as a guest, to get people on your sales and breakthrough call calendar. That's it. Okay? So let me give you an example of a story like this. Victor Menashe, good friend of mine who has his own podcast. Victor was a very successful real estate investor and local real estate investment trainer in Canada. He was doing great. He was doing 5 to 10 unit deals for his own investment portfolio, and he was making 6 figures plus a year as a real estate investment trainer. But Victor wanted more, man, much more. He was frustrated seeing other trainers spouting outdated strategies and theories that didn't work and having people flock to them. And he wanted to get his message out to a far wider audience. So following the strategy I just laid out for you of having a comprehensive strategy of creating his own thought leadership and a compelling story, Victor was able to guest on a whole bunch of large, high-quality podcasts and traditional media dealing with real estate investment. Our system allowed him to be positioned as the go-to expert in his space and to articulate his message in a way that attracted his ideal clients to him in droves. Within a year, based on what he'd learned, his minimum size investment deal for his own portfolio was 1,000 units. And now he's grown his brand to the point where he does 10,000 plus unit deals. He actually helped build a small town in Colorado, 10,000 units. Woo-hoo! That's like unbelievable. And right now he's got a long waiting list for his masterminds, and he never does less than 7 figures in revenue for his investment training programs anymore. And they could probably be even bigger, but he's spending most of his time building his investment portfolio and less time running masterminds and training programs. And despite all that, his income as a thought leader in the real estate space is 10x plus what it used to be when he did it in the old, plodding, slow, frustrating, ineffective way that he used to do it. So guys, hope this has been valuable to you. Take some good notes, build out the structure of your call, use the example that I used of Victor Menashe to build your own case study stories, and you're going to rock it. And that's our wrap. Give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review. That helps us with the algorithm and helps more people see this. So please make sure you do that. And if you know somebody who needs to hear this message, share it with them. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.